Should you get involved? That's the topic of this week's newsletter. Make sure you sign up at Enjoy Life Safely so you get those emails, you get the newsletters, and tomorrow, Sunday, should you get involved will be the title article in that newsletter. So be sure to sign up and get that. Good morning. It's time for Coffee with Alain. I have my book mug, which means we're going to talk about some books this Saturday because I enjoy reading. I think it's an enjoyable activity. It's an educational activity. It's a motivational activity. So it sort of covers everything that I try to cover with Coffee with Alain. I'm going to share a couple books that I've recently read. Hopefully you'll find something that you want to read or to inspire you to get something else and read that. Just read something. So the books today, I'm going to talk first about The Everyday Warrior, a no-hack, practical approach to life by Mike Sarraille with Brian Gordon, George Silva, and Jason Boulay. Mike was a retired SEAL officer, and this is a good general book on living. Uses principles from being a warrior, from being a SEAL, the military, and how to be more successful in your life. Things such as the everyday warrior mindset, failure, life's greatest mentor, the endless pursuit of balance, whole person concept. It begins and ends with knowing thyself, fighting the epidemic of victimhood, doing, talking, set an intention, plan, act, reflect, repeat. One step at a time. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. The warrior way. Get shit done. Make shit happen. Do it all again tomorrow. We all need a tribe, homecoming and belonging. And then take time to rest and self-reflect. So those are sort of the chapters here on the Everyday Warrior. I agree with a lot that he says. I teach a lot of what he teaches. So I really enjoyed this book. It was a good read. If you're into military warriorship, how to live as a warrior, sort of what I call having the warrior's edge, this fits right in with that. Going to say good morning to Dixon. Dixon said, reading is fundamental. That's right. Reading is fun, and it's a fundamental thing for our lives. Thanks, Dixon. Next book we're going to talk about a little bit, 700 Sundays by Billy Crystal. I had this on the shelf as one I wanted to read for a while, finally read it. Very interesting book. He talks about, his life and tells stories from his life, but the whole 700 Sundays, his father died when he was young, and he only had 700 Sundays with his father. And so it's an interesting concept, and, he talks about life, he talks about death, he talks about some different things that many of us could relate to. Even if we don't have the exact same circumstances, we have some of the same feelings and so forth. It was funny at times. It was moving at times. It made you reflect at times. So I like Billy Crystal, and I enjoyed this book. It was a good, easy read, but it had some points in it that made me stop and think a little bit. So I did enjoy 700 Sundays by Billy Crystal. Next book on the list, another one of the James Bond that I've been reading, Thunderball. I like the movies better than the books. One of the things I like about the books is reading them and seeing, when they were written and how so much has changed and different today from it was when these books were written, and just how it was done. So I look at it from that, point of view. And so they're interesting reads. Again, I like the James Bond movies better than I like the books. I have one more. I'm going to read it. I wouldn't go out and buy more James Bond books, but I'm glad that I had these in the library. I told the story how I found these years ago back in the 70s. My dad had them in his stuff when he passed away, and I brought them to the house, and now I'm finally reading them. And then I'm going to donate them, let somebody else have a chance to read them as well. But Thunderball, movie was better, but I'm glad I'm reading these just for some historical perspective and such. Going to say good morning to Jay and Vicky. Appreciate you guys showing up. It's always nice to hear you. Kellen says, love all the books you have. Thanks, Kellen. I do have quite the library, and I'm slowly paring it down a little bit. I've made the promise the last couple of years that I would get rid of more books than I buy, and I'm trying to stick to that. But I still have a huge library. 32 6-foot bookshelves in the house, stuffed full, plus more boxes. But I'm working on it. Dixon says, Crystal did an HBO special by the same name. Very moving. I never knew about that show, but yeah, exactly. The whole 700 Sundays being how his dad died when he was a young child is definitely moving. And I would bet that would be a good show based on this book. Thanks for letting me know about that, Dixon. Kellen says, almost as big as Gittimer's library. Yes, and probably because I've been getting rid of books. If he got rid of as many as I did, maybe they'd be similar. But definitely Jeffrey Gittimer has a huge library, and pretty cool too as well. Always a good plan. Thanks, Jay. The last book I want to talk about today before I go out and take Rocky for a walk, if it stops raining, and we might have to walk in the rain. Here's Your Sign by Bill Engvall. If you have seen his live shows or, on TV, his comedy routines, he has this bit about here's your sign. People that say, stupid things, dumb things. This is just a collection of a lot of those kind of things. It's like I was watering the yard the other day and a kid asked, hey, mister, are you watering the grass? I said, no, I'm flushing out the hose. Here's your sign. So it's people that just ask these obvious questions and such. I think I like his live performances better than the book. And I said the same thing when I read, one of his buddies' books, Ron White's. I like White's material. I think he's hilarious. In book, it doesn't come across quite as good. I think that's the same with Bill. I love him. He's funny as heck on the stage. Some of this is not as funny without him telling it. And because I've seen him, when I'm reading the book, I sort of have his voice and him telling it. But that's what I would say, too, that some of this I find not as funny as his live performances. But it was still a quick, easy, fun read. So those were the books this week. Bill's Here's Your Sign. Quick, easy read for some humor. Thunderball, another one of the James Bond. Love the movies. The books are okay. Billy Crystal, 700 Sundays. A very good book. I really enjoyed it. Moving at times, funny at times. Tells some of his life and dealing with life and death and other ups and downs. So I enjoyed this one very much, more than I thought I would. And then I really liked The Everyday Warrior because it was just right along with stuff that I teach. So it's reinforcing things that I already do, that I already teach, with a little bit of twist on some things to help me be better, to help me live with the warrior's life and help people, or the warrior's edge in my life, and help others get the warrior's edge to live better lives too. So I enjoyed this one a lot. Jay says, you always give me some good ideas for reading. I'm glad, Jay. That's what I'm here for, to try to give you some different perspectives. I read a ton of different kinds of things. So usually people are going to find one or two of the books that I read that fit with what they like as well. Sometimes you might find something, I never heard of that, I want to check it out. And sometimes you might want to say, I don't want to read any of those books you're reading, Alan, but you have motivated me to go read this one. and that is great too. I want to tell everybody to have a spectacular Saturday. I'm going to hope the rain stops here shortly so I can get up and take a hike with Rocky. If not, we'll be hiking in the rain because we really do need to get out and get some exercise. I hope you get some exercise, do some reading, enjoy some of your weekend, make things happen, make great things happen. And again, have a spectacular Saturday, and we will see you tomorrow.